This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You got it work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what we're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Welcome to another edition of Lembidopic Live here on unprecedented.tv, where we find the facts, kill the spin, and tell it like it is as best we can. Opinions are welcome, including our own, but we don't force them upon you as others do under the guise of facts. When we express opinions, I'll say so. We also have opinionated people and sometimes strong language too, but we'll warn you about that when that's going to happen. Big thank you again. The numbers are growing all the time. Sounds like propaganda, but it's also true. If you want to advertise on Unprecedented TV, we're ready, willing and able to accommodate you. We have free thinking, free spirited individuals who don't really like to conform. If that sounds like the type of market that you'd like to appeal to, then give us a call and I'm sure we'll come to a very good arrangement. Now, British politics is in turmoil, as you may have noticed. The new kids on the block, Reform UK, are consistently ahead in the polls. Why is this? Is it because they're brilliant, or is it just because they're less bad than everyone else? There's no doubt that Labour has made a catastrophic start to their term in government. They waited 14 years and ruined it in one. Keir Starmer seems to be backing all the wrong horses, in my opinion, including Volodymyr Zelensky. He's willing to spend billions supporting his, what some would call, corrupt regime. And meanwhile, he's robbing this country with ludicrous ideas such as net zero, getting rid of our carbon dioxide footprint, even though it's the gas of life. It's what our plants breathe. In addition to that, he just doesn't come across very convincingly on the world stage, however hard he tries. But where's Kemi Badenoch, the likely successor, you would have thought some time ago? Doesn't seem to be off the blocks, doesn't seem to be doing well at all. And we'll be talking about that with my guest in a moment or two. Liberal Democrats, my old party, well, thanks for playing anyway. They have definitely become part of the uni party. Nothing really separates them from the others, apart from the fact that their leader, Ed Davey, a man who I like personally, considers it good for his status to run around Thorpe Park, which is an amusement park, in rather strange clothing, and throws himself into the water. Well, all right, that's the kind of thing you do when you're on holiday, not when you're a party leader, in my opinion. So, Ed, come on, see if you can do it a little bit more seriously. In the meantime, it could be that vacuum which is causing the unquestionable success of Reform UK in the polls. Are they ready for government? If they did become the government, would it be any different? Or would they be absorbed into that same uni party, that same blob that has so disappointed the British public? Well, I'll leave you to make your decisions, but don't do so before we have a chat today with my guest. Now, Dave Holland is the director of the Eastern region of Reform UK. The party's doing well all over the country, but it's doing, in my view, particularly well there. Let's not forget that the leader of the party, Nigel Farage, is himself on the East Coast. Clacton is the place, and Dave Holland knows him very well. What is it that we can expect from a Reform UK government? Are they ready and are they internally organised enough to do it? I've done all these jobs in politics one way or another across a career of 40 years, and you can't kid a kidder. So we'll have an honest conversation with Dave. Dave Holland, thanks for coming on to Unprecedented TV. How have you been?
Busy is the answer. Thank you very much for inviting me onto your show. Much appreciated.
I'm very pleased that you're here. I know that you're one of the key movers and shakers in the party. You know everybody in the top of the party, and perhaps by coincidence, or maybe not, the mover shaker, known as David Bull, is in your area, as is the leader. That's quite a big responsibility for you, Dave.
It's a huge responsibility to be, because everybody's looking at us and everybody's seeing looking to us to lead the way and to lead by example, which is just another responsibility that we have in the Eastern region.
But you carry it on your broad shoulders very well. I've noticed, frankly, from my own travels, that the Eastern region is really getting moving, and they do really seem to have a clear sense of purpose. Just let's start with the big picture question. Why, in your words, is Reform UK consistently ahead in the opinion polls? I don't think there's any opinion poll anymore, or any serious one, that doesn't put Reform statistically significantly ahead of all the other parties.
Two reasons. One, I think our ground troops listen to the electorate and connect with them in a way that the other parties seem to have forgotten how to connect. And the second reason is because Nigel is unique in as far as political leaders go at the moment, insofar as he can connect across the spectrum with such a wide variety of people, that I think we just connect with the British electorate, and we've listened to them, we understand their problems, and we're coming up with practical, common sense solutions to those problems.
That's it's a tall order, though, to build the party to a point where we can reverse, and here's my opinion, the damage from decades of mismanagement. Let me try that again. I held my head in my hands when the Liberal Democrats were in government with the Conservatives. There was a real opportunity there for Lib Dems to make a difference, but instead they caved and capitulated with a man I believe to have been the worst leader in the party's history, Nick Clegg, who actually threw away the flagship promise, no tuition fees for students. So they've messed up. I don't think we need to spend too long talking about Keir Starmer, the opinion polls say it all. He's messed up. But does this mean that you're ahead by default? Many people simply say they've no one else to vote for, even if they don't know that much about reform.
Well, yes. I mean, I think there can be no disputing that we've been governed for the last 20 odd years plus by a uni party. It didn't seem to matter who you elected. We had more and more of the same. So the only people who changed were the people in their jobs and the names. Nothing else changed. The policies maintained the policies continue in exactly the same vein. And we're here to change that. It looks, to all intents and purposes, like there is a blob that has an awful lot of control over politicians currently and over policy, which is why nothing changes. There seems to be a direction of travel that's, if you didn't know better, you would think was agreed and was being acted upon by whoever got elected. That is not our intent. Our intent is to reverse the situation, and I believe that everything is fixable. If you look back to the 70s, which were the country was in a hideous state economically. We had strikes, we had national strikes, we had blackouts, we had power cuts. It was a hideous state of affairs, and yet by the 80s, with some common sense, small government, small conservative policies, the country had turned around and we had an economic boom during the 80s, which restored an awful lot of Britain's fortunes. And I believe we can do it again. Our party believe we can do it again. Nothing is beyond hope. My concern is that on a daily basis, we see the situation getting worse, and I hate to see that happening to the country that I love so much. But unfortunately, in order to get rid of this government, it's going to have to get worse before it gets better.
Yes, that's an interesting point. I meet a lot of Reform UK people, often at events, and a lot of them say to me this thing, Dave. They say, oh, if only we could get rid of Labour sooner, if only Keir Starmer could be forced to go to the country next year. And I say, that's not a smart move, because although it hurts, it's more likely as time goes by that Labour will simply be in a tailspin, and that will make it a little bit easier to replace them. The nightmare scenario, in my view, once again, my opinion here, is having some kind of a Labour government struggling on because they didn't, and doing okay in an early election because other people weren't ready for it. I don't know if you've got a view on this, and it doesn't make any difference what you and I think, but just out of interest, I think 2029 is the right year because reform does, and we'll talk about this, reform's got quite a lot of work to do internally to be ready.
Yes, to a certain extent, you're right. I mean, we will be ready whenever the election's called, whether it's next week, 2 years' time, or 4 years' time. We will be ready. We will have a candidate in every seat, and we will be ready to govern, and we will have the policy platform in place and the skills and the knowledge to be able to govern. Reform is full of very successful business people, people who've worked in the community, in healthcare, in charities, people who understand business, they understand money, they understand tax, they understand not spending more money than you've got. That's a novel concept for a government to try and get its head around, isn't it? But fundamentally, we have to start cutting our cloth according to our earnings. And currently we are living £20 billion a month beyond our means. And
a month, 20 billion a month.
20 billion a month the country is currently borrowing, and 11 billion of that goes directly to pay the interest on the national debt. That is the crazy world we're living in. It's a death spiral. If you were an individual, do you remember Wonga and all the payday loan companies? Yeah. Well, pretty much the country is already in Wonga payday loans territory. That's where we are. They're paying off one credit card with another credit card to stay in business. And we've been doing it, even if you go back to the early Cameron coalition years. During that austerity, we were still printing money because they didn't balance the books. And you know, the Tories claim that Labour are doing such a bad job, but under the Tory government from 2010 to 2024, the national debt went up from £1 trillion to 2.6 trillion. And that's supposed to be financial prudence. It's insane. And so now, as the national debt approaches 3 trillion, we have to do something about it. And the first thing we have to do is start living within our means, which means stop wasting money on all of the daft, stupid, nonsensical stuff that doesn't need to be there. We're going to have to go back to basics, because all of these stupid livery schemes for ambulances and police cars and nonsense that goes on in the world, and rainbow coloured zebra crossings and all of that nonsense is unnecessary expense that doesn't need to exist. We don't need diversity officers. Everybody knows that we should all, everyone's equal, and we should all be treated on our character and our ability. Everybody knows that already. You don't need to employ people at huge expense to waste money on a job that doesn't need to exist.
You mentioned the economy. Rachel Greaves in this picture, classic example of what's wrong with the country. An oblivious Prime Minister, not aware of the fact that everyone else could see Rachel Reeves, hardly an iron chance, but was crying, was weeping during Prime Minister's questions. Now, she's allowed to weep, but her performance in the chamber, I don't know what she was crying about, more or less reflects the way I feel about the country. She promised no more tax rises. Now she's promising tax rises. It's abysmal. You know what, Dave? I just feel that our Chancellor, I don't want to make the whole show about her. I feel that Chancellor is just a passenger. She said it was encouraging that the economy had grown by 0.3%. And then she said it's better than other G7 countries. It's pathetic. It's pathetic, Dave. You know the Russian economy is growing faster than ours. Did you know that?
Yes, they are producing and selling a lot of oil at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I wonder if basically we're now in a situation where essentially There's no escape from this woman except through a general election. Because if he got rid of her, I mean, if he actually got rid of her, then essentially what would happen is, well, Storm would probably have to leave as well, because he's made it quite clear he's very closely associated with Rachel Reeves, and I just don't think that he can do that. So I think they're stuck with her for the next 4 years. I don't know, but as I say, who would be your chancellor? Who would be the chancellor if Reform UK won? Has that been decided?
We haven't actually got a shadow cabinet in place yet. We're in a very unique situation. We stand a very real chance of becoming the first government in British history to be elected without having been the official opposition first. And that presents its own challenges. We are, in effect, building an aeroplane whilst we're flying it.
That's a good way of putting it. It wouldn't fill me with confidence if I saw somebody putting on the engines just after takeoff. But
well, yeah, but we're flying. This is the thing. So they were put on correctly, weren't they?
Fair point.
Because nobody's ever built a party at this speed before. Nobody's ever built a party at this scale before, with this level of ambition before, to stand even the slightest chance of achieving what we are attempting to achieve at the next general election. So we are in totally uncharted waters, totally uncharted territory, with possibly the best leader this country has had for the last 40 years at least, I should think. So we're perfectly situated. We've got a fantastic team behind him, supporting him, and we are on a daily basis working flat out 24/7 in order to create what we need to create and build the party out, everything behind the scenes. The requirements are quite immense, detailed and extreme, to build out everything to support the branches and to support the members, and to, we're just having the board elections, so then we'll have a board in place which will then allow the branches to be ratified as elected branches. So everything, we have to put one thing in place before we can do the next bit, and it's all coming together. It's all coming together. If you look back to where we were the day of the election last year, we've now got, I think it's 500 and something branches in place, and they're having their first special general meetings to actually elect the official board, having been interim in the meantime. So we're scaling everything that we're doing and establishing everything. And meantime, whilst these branches are all getting themselves established, they're out raising money, they're delivering leaflets, they're knocking on doors, they're gathering voter intention all across the country. There are literally thousands of people working tirelessly to deliver Nigel to number 10.
That's a couple of things that we won't go too much into the internal mechanics of how a party works, because the people who are interested already know, and the people who aren't interested won't be about it. But let's make a note of what you said there. You're saying thousands of activists around the country. Incidentally, I did all this. I've done this probably 4 times in my life, in student politics and the Lib Dems, when they really were nowhere in the 1990s. I've seen how much effort it took, even for me personally. The sacrifices I made back then for a party which at that point I believed in, the Lib Dems, but they've drifted off into this blob with the others now. So it's a lot of work. You're telling me it's happening. That's all to the good. But you mentioned maybe the secret weapon is not even secret. Nigel Farage. What's the secret of his success? Why is he so popular? Marmite, it must be said, but popular.
I think all the successful people throughout history have been Marmite in one way, shape or another. It doesn't matter who you look at, from sportsmen through politicians, through celebrities, through movie stars, through whatever. But there is always that Marmite division. Some people love them, some people hate them. And nothing worse than no one caring about you. And so if people have an opinion about you, then at least they know who you are, I suppose. He's quite a special human being, to be honest. He's very charismatic. He connects with, he's the only political leader I've ever seen or witnessed that can just walk into any pub unannounced and stand at the bar and chat to the locals. It is quite incredible that that's what he's prepared to do, and that's what he's happy doing. And people, he just understands people. He understands people's issues, their challenges. He understands normal people.
Let's look at him in action here. You could argue this is a strong...
You've frozen up.
Oh, that's... can you hear me and see me now? Hopefully. Okay.
Yeah.
We might be having a connection problem there, but we'll carry on. I'm an optimist. The Blob can't get into our internet yet. Maybe they can. What I was saying is that the secret of Nigel Farage's success is interesting, but he's playing a very strong suit at the moment. Let's have a look at what he's been saying quite recently in a speech.
There is certainly rising public anger out there in the country. As you can see, the number of protests that are taking place outside migrant hotels up and down the country is indeed evidence of that. And increasingly, the migrant hotel issue has moved really from one of fairness, why on earth have people been given all these things, to very much about the safety of women and children. For all the government's talk about protecting children, which they claim is the sole purpose of the Online Safety Act, our criticisms of that and the impositions on free speech that have been imposed just in the first week of its operation have led to them sinking to the depths. I would suggest that comparisons that somehow we're siding with Jimmy Savile were wholly inappropriate at every way. But what we will today be talking about is a cover-up. A cover-up that in many ways is reminiscent of what happened after the Southport killings last year. I will say to all broadcasters when we get to this segment of today's press conference, nothing we say will in any way be in contempt of court. And indeed, to quote Jonathan Hall KC, who was the independent reviewer of terrorism legislation, he said in the wake of Southport that we should spell out the basic and sober facts. And that's exactly what we will do today.
We're the last line of defence.
He goes on to talk in quite a lot of detail about law and order and the migrant problem as well. It seems to me that an opportunity exists for Reform UK to speak what people were scared to say because of the woke agenda. And I wonder if the real secret of successful reform is the fact that you're giving voice to the voiceless. And ironically, the voiceless are the majority of British-loving people who don't want this country to be diluted by uncontrolled and considerable illegal migration.
Yes, I mean, the whole freedom of speech thing we could talk about for several hours because it's very frightening in my opinion. I haven't spoken to anybody in the last 2 months who has said that they've not measured what they are doing and what they are saying online, and they're now very considered about their speech. Now that means they're being in effect censored, because if you can't speak your mind, then what can you do? So a lot of people are very frustrated. I think a lot of people are incredibly frustrated with not being able to say what they want, and yes, having a party that can say it for them. But even then, that's not without its challenges. As a political party, we are held to account by the mainstream media and other politicians, and everything we say is scrutinized so they can determine whether it can be taken out of context and used against us, because the only weapons they have against reform is to call us racist or to call us xenophobes or to play the race card when we're talking about the boats, for example. That it's got nothing to do with race, it's got to do with cultures and multiculturalism and the challenges that clearly brings to a country like ours, where the government are trying to blend very different cultures together, and it isn't working.
Yeah, we do have a bit of a line issue, but let's continue. The sound is perfectly clear, so unless the team tells me we need to return to this, let's just continue. Now, we can talk about Nigel Farage all day as well, but there's no doubt that the opinion polls tell the story, and no one can deny it anymore. If you look at these figures here, it's absolutely clear cut. Reform, YouGov, 28%, More in Common, 30%, Opinion, 31, Find Out Now, 32, Freshwater, 33. In every one of these polls, the Reform UK Party is miles ahead of the Labour Party, which is languishing in the very low 20s, still ahead of the Conservatives, but in the very low 20s. The Lib Dems trailing behind that, and Greens, thankfully, pretty much nowhere in sight. Now, these figures go a long way to suggesting that actually the successful opportunity for you here is to just keep calm and carry on. That if you don't rock the boat too much, you'll succeed in whatever it is that you want to do. Is that a reasonable thing to say?
To a certain extent, yes. I mean, we've risen as far as we have because the public like what we've been doing and what we've been saying and what we say that we will do to help them out of the hole that the country is currently in. There is a temptation. I believe it was Keir Starmer's Ming Vase strategy, where for the last 6 months of the last election cycle, he refused to say anything or do anything for the simple reason that they didn't want to make a mistake. Now, from our point of view, 4 years out from an election, that's not a situation we can be in. In my opinion, this is not party opinion, but in my opinion, we have to carry on doing what we've been doing and keep doing it, because we've got the public on our side. We are on the side of the public. We want to change the country to help the majority, as I see it. And so we have to keep going. But I never expected us to be this high up in the polls this quickly. And it creates another challenge for us, because we have to stay there, consolidate on it, build on it, and increase it in the next, let's face it, the election will probably be in 2029, but it might be as early as 2027. It's not for us to choose. All we can do is keep putting pressure on the Labour Party and see what happens. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Incidentally, I look at opinion polls, but I also look at the betting odds, because the difference is with the betting odds, they have to get it right or they lose money. Leaving aside maybe some insider trading by certain politicians, which maybe we won't go into too much. That might be an ongoing case. The opinion polls, as I say, are one thing, but the betting odds are really interesting. It's just a sample. Nigel Farage is the favourite to be the next Prime Minister after Keir Starmer. I think the assumption is that Starmer will rumble on to 2029, will sort of stagger on with his chaotic and unimpressive and unempathic approach, and then the election will take over. Of course, there is a possibility that a scandal or two could get rid of Starmer, in which case we'll probably have Angela Rayner. Well, if that doesn't happen, the polls... Go on.
Don't say things like that.
Well,
Angela Rayner,
it would be a good thing for... It would be great for reform, because I would say if Angela Rayner became the Prime Minister, all you have to do is wait. Really. It's not good for the country in the short term, could be very good for the country after 2029.
Here's the thing. Everybody I've met within reform is involved with reform because they want to fix the country. To sit there and know that we actually kind of need someone like Angela Rayner destroying the country so that we can get in to fix it is something that's very hard to deal with when all you want to do is help your country. And it's the dichotomy of that choice. I don't want Angela Rayner in place, but I see where you're coming from. There's kind of sometimes things have to get worse before they get better, but I really don't want them to. I love this country too much.
I'm not campaigning for that. I'm not a member of the Labour Party, as you very well know, and nor do I intend to influence internal Labour politics. But I am simply making the point that when activists, I mentioned this before, when activists say, oh, well, we really need to have an early election, I'd say, no, we need 2029. We need Starmer in post for another 4 years. Just grin and bear it. Wait till you can see the whites of their eyes. Wait till they approach, and then that's the time to strike. Just before we go on, I want to go to one other area before we finish. But before I go any further, I just want to remind you, viewers, that our offerings are going up and up and up. There's an ever wider set of programs for you to enjoy and watch. Take a look at this. I can't go through all those programs now, but you just keep going to Unprecedented TV here on my X account at Lembetopic or at unprecedented.tv or on YouTube, where you'll also find the archive so that you can look back at the countless shows we've already done. And if you've got a show idea, then do let us know. Always love to hear your views. Back to Dave Holland, Eastern Region Director for Reform UK. I want to finish in one other area, and it ties back to where we started. If Reform UK win 350 members of Parliament, almost by definition, apart from a few defectors, people like me, maybe, the majority will never have been in Parliament before. How do you stop the civil service, which I saw across 13 years at first hand, from blobbing Reform UK, from using their relentless presence, come hell or high water, whatever the party changes in government, to basically run the country? How do you stop that from happening? Because with all the preparation all over the country, nothing really prepares you for the green benches of the Commons.
I understand that. I understand the challenges. Interestingly, looking at the experienced members of Parliament and what they've achieved for this country, I think the sooner we remove as much of that experience as possible and throw it in the bin, the better the country will be for it, because they have not done this country any service whatsoever. I think a new pair of eyes, regardless of political experience, we have business experience, life experience, common sense experience. We understand spreadsheets, we understand profit and losses. We can look at any set of books and see where the waste is and see what we can cut without reducing services. It's all about, at the end of the day, it's all about delivering services to the customer, and the customer is the taxpayer. So an awful lot of that can be done to a better standard than it is now by cutting out all of the spending and expenditure that doesn't need to exist.
A heady ambition to become the government from zero to hero, really, as you say, not even from opposition, but straight in at number one, or to be more precise, straight in at number 10 in Nigel Farage's case. You could do it. The polls all say you will do it, or you're most likely to do it. If you had to summarize your personal mission objective for, let's assume, the next 4 years, Dave Holland, what would it be?
I've got one goal, and that's to put Nigel into number 10, because if he doesn't get into number 10, then nothing changes. So that is my purpose. That is the purpose of everybody that I know in Reform UK, and that is what we're working towards. If he doesn't succeed and get into number 10, then nothing changes. And I'm frightened that nothing will change. We've got to make it happen. We can't afford for it not to happen.
Thank you so much. That's Dave Holland, Eastern Region Director for Reform UK. I wonder what you think. Do you agree? Do have your say on X. We follow it, and regular contributors on X will know that I tend to respond as well. We'll be following this closely, because I do have to say I think that Reform UK does offer an alternative. And if they can get themselves organised, that's a huge opportunity. And maybe you feel differently. Maybe you think Labour can pull it round. Maybe the Tories will come riding back in. I'd love to know what you think. Thanks very much to Dave again for being on the show. Thanks very much for watching, and thanks to my team for putting the program together. And do remember, the number of shows is going up and up and up all the time. And you can see them on X, on YouTube, and soon on Rumble and some other platforms too. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope it made you think. I'll see you soon.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You got it work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for the immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages,